Long ago, in the divided lands of Israel and Judah, kings rose and fell like fleeting shadows. Some ruled with justice, but many turned away from the laws of the Lord, chasing after false gods and leading their people into ruin. In a land torn by ambition, where prophets called down fire from the heavens and kings rose only to fall, the fate of two kingdoms teetered on the edge of destruction. From fiery chariots that carried men to the skies to the clash of swords under storm-darkened skies, the Book of Two Kings tells a story not just of judgment and ruin, but of miracles, courage, and an unyielding hope that refused to die. What happens when nations forget their God? And can redemption rise from the ashes of their downfall? The answers lie in this epic tale of prophets, kings, and divine intervention. The prophet Elijah, a man known for calling down fire from heaven and challenging the worshippers of Baal, knew that his time on earth was coming to an end. He journeyed with his faithful servant Elijah, moving from Gilgal to Bethel and then to the Jordan River. At each stop, Elijah urged Elijah to stay behind, but Elijah refused. As they crossed the Jordan on dry ground after Elijah struck the water with his cloak, a dramatic event unfolded. Suddenly, a chariot of fire drawn by horses of flame descended from the heavens. In a whirlwind of divine power, Elijah was carried up to the skies, leaving Elisha to watch in awe. Elisha picked up Elijah's cloak, symbolizing that he had inherited his mentor's prophetic authority. Testing his newfound power, he struck the Jordan, and the waters parted once more. The era of Elijah had begun. Elisha became a beacon of God's power and compassion, performing many miracles during his prophetic ministry. Purifying the spring at Jericho, when the people of Jericho complained of poisoned water that caused death, Elisha cast salt into the spring and declared it healed. From that moment, the waters were pure. A desperate widow begged Elisha for help, fearing the loss of her sons to debt slavery. He instructed her to borrow empty jars and pour her small amount of oil into them. Miraculously, the oil multiplied until every jar was filled, saving her family. A wealthy woman from Shunem provided Elisha with a place to stay whenever he passed by. In gratitude, he prophesied that she would have a son despite her old age. The child later died unexpectedly, but Elisha stretched himself over the boy and prayed until the child was brought back to life. Naaman, a commander of the Syrian army, suffered from leprosy. Elisha instructed him to wash 7 times in the Jordan River. Though initially offended by the simplicity of the command, Naaman obeyed and was completely healed. Elisha's life was marked by acts of compassion, justice, and divine intervention. Despite the warnings of prophets like Elisha, the kings of Israel led the people further into idolatry and sin. Among these kings was Jehu, who initially purged the land of Baal worship but failed to fully restore obedience to God. As the northern kingdom continued to decline, a powerful empire loomed on the horizon: Assyria. In 722 BC, the Assyrian king Shalmaneser V besieged Samaria, Israel's capital. After 3 years of brutal warfare, the city fell. The people of Israel were exiled and scattered across foreign lands, fulfilling the warnings of the prophets. The northern kingdom was no more. In Judah, a glimmer of hope remained during the reign of King Hezekiah, a righteous leader who trusted in God. He tore down idols, restored true worship, and led the people back to the Lord. When Sennacherib, the king of Assyria, laid siege to Jerusalem with a vast army, Hezekiah sought divine help. The prophet Isaiah assured him that God would deliver Judah. In Judah, a glimmer of hope remained during the reign of King Hezekiah, a righteous leader who trusted in God. He tore down idols, restored true worship, and led the people back to the Lord. When Sennacherib, the king of Assyria, laid siege to Jerusalem with a vast army, Hezekiah sought divine help. The prophet Isaiah assured him that God would deliver Judah. Unfortunately, Hezekiah's successors were not as faithful. The people of Judah returned to idolatry and wickedness, despite the warnings of prophets like Jeremiah. In 586 BC, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon besieged Jerusalem. The walls were breached, the temple was looted and burned, and the city was left in ruins. The people of Judah were carried into exile in Babylon, marking the fall of the southern kingdom. Though the story ends with destruction, there is a faint glimmer of hope. In Babylon, King Jehoiachin of Judah was eventually released from prison and treated with honor. This act symbolized that God had not abandoned his people. The exile was not the end. Restoration and redemption awaited in the future.